Hello, this is Esteban Garcia with Nebia Technology. Welcome to this ALM Guide video series focused on helping you get started with application lifecycle management tools. Last time I showed you how to create a Visual Studio Online account. And today I'm going to show you how to get your code into a VSO team project using Git. When we created our team project, we chose Git as our version control repository. Clicking on the code link takes us to this page, and it gives us instructions on how to clone the repo so we can start working with the local repository, or how to push to the server if you already have a local repository configured. So let's go ahead and cover both scenarios. Git hosted by Visual Studio Online behaves like other Git repos that you may have worked with before, so you can work with it from your favorite IDE or from the command line. I'm going to be working from Visual Studio. So I'm here in Visual Studio 2013. From the Team Explorer tab, I'm going to click on the Connect icon, which lets me select other team projects to connect to. As you may recall, we created a VSO account, almguide.visualstudio.com. So I'm going to click on Select Team Projects, and since I'm connected with my Microsoft account, I'm automatically shown the Visual Studio Online account that I created earlier. If you don't see it in this drop-down, you're able to click on Servers, then click on Add, and enter your Visual Studio Online account. In my case, it would have been almguide.visualstudio.com. And then click OK. Once the correct server shows up, you're able to select the team project. In our case, it's VSO Demo, and then click on Connect. Once I do so, Visual Studio recognizes that I haven't cloned the repository that I'm connected to. And it's pretty easy to get started with that, so I'm going to click on the Clone This Repository link. I could have also clicked on the Clone Repository down here under the project. This allows me to specify the mapping between my server repo and my local repo. And then I'm going to click on Clone. So what this did behind the scenes was initialize my local repo and set its origin to be the Git repository hosted by Visual Studio Online. Once I'm done with that, I can click on Solutions and I click on New. This allows me to create a new Visual Studio solution that's going to be using my local Git repository. Let's go with something simple. I'm going to create a console application. And as you can see, by default, the Add to Source Control checkbox is already checked. So I'm going to click OK. If I go to Changes, you can see that all the files that were created with this project are ready to be committed to my local Git repo. So let's go ahead and do that. And commit. Now let's make a couple of changes. And commit this change. And one more change. And go ahead and commit this as well. Now, I want to get these changes up to my Visual Studio Online account. To do so, I need to sync between my local repo and my Git repository hosted by Visual Studio Online. To do so, I'm going to click on Sync. And that shows me all the local commits that I've done that haven't made it to the server yet. To get them there, I'm going to click on Push. And all this did was issue a git push command, which pushed my changes up to the server. Now, I'm going to flip back over to Visual Studio Online and refresh this page. And you can see that my changes are here. If I click on History, all my local commits made it up here as well. Now, what if you had a local Git repo that you wanted to get up to a Visual Studio Online repository? So you started a brand new project, you initialized a Git repository locally, you've been working locally and now you want to push somewhere. Or maybe you're migrating from, for example, GitHub, you want to move your files over to Visual Studio Online. You would clone that Git repo to your local repository and then you want to point it up to Visual Studio Online. How do we do that? So let me show you that. So I am back on Visual Studio, and to initialize my new Git repository, I'm just going to click on New under Local Git Repositories. It's going to ask me where I want to put this, and let's put it under ALM Guide. Let's call this Local Repo Demo. Click on Create. So behind the scenes, this created a new folder and initialized it as a Git repo. I can right click on it and open in File Explorer, and you can see that my local Git repo has my .git folder and Git attributes and Git ignore files, just like you would expect on a brand new Git repo. Now I can double click on local repo demo, and that connects me to the local Git repository. And just like before, I can create a brand new solution. Let's call it local Git repo demo and click OK. And just like before, let's make a couple of commits. So let's look at changes, and I see my projects are here, and add one more change. And let's commit this change as well. Now I'm ready to push this up to my server. If I click on sync, you'll see that Visual Studio sees that there's no remote repository configured for my local repo. So how do we do this? If we jump over to Visual Studio Online, I can copy this URL and paste it into this text box and click on Publish. So as the message states, the origin remote has been added and the current branch was published to Visual Studio Online. So now I can switch over to VSO, refresh this page, and you can see that all my changes made it over here, just like before, including its history. Thanks for watching this video where I showed you how to connect to your new Visual Studio Online team project and push your code to Git.